Hello, everybody, and welcome to the show. Of course, this is TFT Tinfoil Talk, and I am your host, Chester C. Busby III. And we got some interesting things to talk about today, man. We're talking about officially recognized UFO sightings and stuff like that, official sightings. And I think it's going to be pretty interesting. We're happy to have all you guys in here with us. Of course, we always mention the links we have down below. We do have an interesting one from Preston Poulter, who was in here yesterday. He gave us his issue one of a White Lily. So if you'd like to read that, you can click on that in the link just down below and have a read on it. And if you like it, you can go over and support him on Kickstarter. He's on Kickstarter, right? It wasn't Indiegogo, it's Kickstarter.
Right,
Yeah,
Kickstarter.
right, Kickstarter. So definitely check that out. A free comic is always cool. We appreciate these guys giving these out to us so we can share with you guys. And of course, we appreciate you guys in the chat. We see Roger Heller's here. He says, "All right, another day of mystery in history and exciting talk on TFT." Dude, nice way to turn a phrase. Nice. Eric Boyd is here and he says, "Have any sightings of Chester ever been confirmed?" No. No, absolutely not. We have a Rusty Deo says morning. Okay. I see the little bit of Japanese you got sitting there, the katakana. Awesome. But welcome, guys. Definitely, of course, we appreciate the subs and the likes and all that. And we have been growing, actually. We're over 675 now. It's pretty cool, dude. And our fan speak is up to what, 194, 195? That's on Facebook, of course, and they're growing. So we're real
Mhm.
happy to have all this interaction, guys. We appreciate it. But definitely hit that share button for us, please. We are live streamers, and it's nice to have everybody here. Although I have always been surprised how many people come back and watch the show later, though, which is cool as well. Hey, we got Jim O'Reilly in here. Dude, it's all Booster. No, unfortunately, Jim, this we do love have Booster on. He's a very funny, entertaining guy, but he doesn't know anything about conspiracies, dude. He doesn't have any information to add, unfortunately. When he pops in to make some humor with it, it's fine. But it's too bad a booster can't hang with this show, huh? It would be nice to have him on, but it is what it is, right? But
Right.
let me come over here and say hello to the panel and see how these guys are doing today. Hey, Denali, how's the weather?
Hey, hot.
It's hot. It's hot. Yeah. So do you think the aliens are controlling the weather, or is it just natural?
It's Florida.
That explains a lot. Yeah, Florida's a weird place. It's I lived in the South myself, and but Florida is in the South, right? But it's not really
Yeah.
Southern. It's very very different feel. Hey, I got a wasp in the house. Wonderful.
It depends on which part of Florida you're talking about. If you're in North Florida, it's definitely the South.
Is it?
And yeah, North Florida is definitely the South. And those are fighting words there.
All right.
As you
Well,
come as you come down to Central and South Florida, then it becomes weirder and weirder because it's more swamp.
I see. You're running into the Jewish retirees, right?
Yeah.
I see. Yeah, well, that's cool. I mean, I guess that means there's a lot of money, and you're kind of sitting like in the middle of the place or something like that. But that's all right. We're not going to dox you. But awesome. How about you, George? Now, you're in Canada, so it's like just horrible weather all the time, right? And George is
He's
not
muted. He's
listening.
mute.
He's muted again. He's not paying
Sorry, sorry,
attention.
sorry, sorry.
Okay.
I was trying to find the window so I can unmute myself.
Hmm.
Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Hi.
How is it up in Canada? You got some nice weather coming in?
No, it's raining.
It's raining. Well, I got a beautiful morning here, actually. Me and the dog are sitting in the living room here, or this little apartment thing is really what it is. But and we're enjoying the nice sun coming in from the big old open window, and it's nice, dude. But enough snow and enough sun. And Dave says snowbirds. Well, I was a snowbird, dude, because I'm a Yankee, of course. And but my dad is from Mobile, Alabama, so I went down there several times in my life, and I was definitely called a snowbird many times, amongst other things. Damn Yankee, effing Yankee, all kind of things like that. Some of the people are real friendly. But it is what it is, I guess. One of the things I did, Denelli,
Mhm.
when I went down the south, I made a huge mistake. You see, when I was about 12, no, 10, 11, 10, 11 years old, the first time I went down and lived there in the south, because my dad's military, so we moved around, right? Um,
Right.
and my father didn't tell me. He didn't explain to me that I shouldn't have black friends, you see. And I went down
Hmm.
there, and I'm a music kid, right? So I was in the band, and I met this guy who just, I mean, just ridiculously good, piano player for a junior high school kid, but he was really, really good. And of course, that
Right.
attracted my attention. When I went over chat and being friends, and I made friends. And boy, did I catch so much flack for having a black friend. I mean, I was like, what the hell is all this about? I was just a kid, and I didn't get it, right? Because no one had told me I wasn't supposed to have a black friend. You know what I mean? And I didn't pay attention. Of course, I was stubborn, so I just kind of dug my heels in more. But boy, did I! I mean, I went through friggin' gladiator school down there because of that. It's um, it's a weird thing, you know. My dad should have told me I shouldn't have done that, or maybe he shouldn't have. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, it's actually pretty good that you stuck by your guns in principle and stayed friends with whoever you wanted to be friends with. So you shouldn't really let anybody tell you who to be friends or not friends with.
Oh no, hold on a second, and it should be reconnected. So yeah, it says it's offline, but it shouldn't be. Oh, come on. Why is
Yeah,
this
we're
happening
offline.
again?
And Booster was in the chat too.
Yeah.
He was. Why is this doing it? Why does YouTube keep doing this, dude? And we're back, he said. Are we? It doesn't look like we're back.
We're back.
Are we?
Yes, we are. Are you having fun?
Uh, I see that. You guys can see the stream. You can still see us.
Yeah. Yeah.
We hear you.
We hear you.
That's weird. I don't know. That was very bizarre. You just tell me if you guys can hear as we go along. You tell me if there's a problem. I'll pay attention to chat real close. But anyway, that was a very much of an aside conversation, but an interesting one anyway. But I've run into that a lot. It's kind of funny when I hear people talking about such things. I've actually experienced a lot of racism in my life, but mainly it was coming to me actually. I've had a lot of black people be extremely racist to me. I've had white people be racist to me because I dared to like other people. I've traveled all over Asia, and I've had a lot of racism come at me because I'm a white person, I'm an American, or what have you. So I've experienced a lot of this kind of tribalistic type of characteristics, and it's it is what it is. But that's not what we're here to talk about. So, what happened? Where is TFT? Ruro, I guess sharing this one boomed out the stream. Is it playing though, guys? Can you see it? Can you see
Yes,
it?
it's playing. Yes, it's playing. I see myself talking.
Oh, you
Yes.
do, but I'm not. It says the stream is offline when look at the YouTube.
Okay, we're back.
Yeah,
Oh, there
we're
it is.
we're
It
there.
is. It's working now. Okay. Oh, I don't know what that
Mhm.
is. YouTube's been having weird things that this whole year has been weird for YouTube, but this past week or so has been they've been doing something. I don't know what it is. Anyway, let's go ahead and get into it now. Today, I'll start out here and I'll do
Mhm.
the my little spiel I have for you today. Now,
Spiel it out.
I'm going to spiel it out. Now, today we're talking about official sightings, right? And these we each have something we're going to talk about. I think we'll have some side dialogue. I don't know if this will be as long a show as usual, but what I really want to do is have more interaction from the chat, and we're going to talk a little bit more about getting more of you guys in here and joining us TFT, because I'm sure there's many of you who have opinions and things, conspiracy theories that you like and you know a lot about, and we want to kind of build that up from a little bit. But today we're talking about official sightings, and I don't know if you know this, but did you know that George Washington saw an alien? Not a UFO, aliens walking around a forest. Do you know that Jimmy Carter openly admits he's seeing UFOs and he still got elected president of the United States? You know, this other older guy down here was a bit of a pain in the ass, this fella, but his name is Christopher Columbus, and he saw aliens several times on his journey to the Americas. Interesting, right? This over here is a Russian cosmonaut. His name is Vladimir, and Vladimir, amongst other Russian cosmonauts and American astronauts, are officially, have said that they have seen aliens, and they're sticking to their guns, by the way. And it's very interesting how many people, if you go and you check online, which famous people or known people throughout history have seen aliens, it's kind of shocking how many of them have done so actually. It's pretty interesting, and of course we also know about like many of the paintings coming out of the Middle Ages and the Renaissance that have UFOs painted in the little corners or hidden, right? Of course, famous one is the Mona Lisa from Leonardo da Vinci, right? And it's pretty interesting that the UFO phenomena has been around for a very long time, right? And a lot of famous people have. Yeah, that's right, Jim. But and it seems to be pretty accepting. I mean, there's certain things you can say that'll get you in trouble, but saying you saw a UFO doesn't seem to be one of them. We also have. I just chose this one randomly, actually, off the internet. But we have a lot of photographic and video evidence of weird stuff. And even if you say, well, some of it's faked and some of it's a balloon or some of it is swamp gas, which used to be a favorite in the past, even if you cut out all of that. It still leaves with you with a percentage of these type of videos and photographs that cannot be explained, and they're huge in number because this phenomena is in, we're talking tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of pieces of evidence have been gathered. And now we talked about this a little bit before when we did our Roswell show and stuff like that. I'm not going to go back into that. But I do have my little bit of a spiel today, and I'll start today. Actually, I usually go last, but I'm going to go first today because the one I'm offering is kind of small and short. But here, right here, is one that I thought was really interesting. Now, you guys remember over in Ukraine when the Crimea incident was taking place. And the people of Crimea and of course Eastern Ukraine were sick and tired of the government just knocking on them because they didn't want the Russian people who had been in there since wartime. They didn't want them anymore, and they were being really disrespectful. And of course they had that political coup that went on, and America came in and supported it, of course, and the Russians went into Crimea. We remember all of that, right? The interesting
Hmm.
thing during that hostile moment was there were sightings over several places in Ukraine, but this place, Korostan, is in particular, of these big giant ships, these long cigar-shaped ships, hovering over Ukraine, a point of turmoil and conflict. And the interesting thing that I'll make about this, and the other guys, I'm sure, will cover it as well, a lot of times when we see turmoil and conflict is when we see these kind of craft. Now, does that mean that some outside observer is paying attention to what we're doing, or is it simply military is observing a military conflict? Right? If that's the question, right? But this one really struck me because there were so many photos. I just chose two here, right? But there's so much photographic evidence. It was video evidence. It was obviously this big giant thing, and this thing is not small. That is huge, right? That is, I mean, who knows how long that is, but that's several hundred meters long at least, or excuse me, several hundred yards long at least. And that's a big old thing that's just kind of floating in the sky and move around. And there were several times where people videotaping it, it would give off like a little glow, like a blink or a twinkle, and then boom, it was just no longer in the video. It's gone. It's almost as if it moved super fast or it just teleported or something. But this was highly photographed, and they didn't care that they were being seen, right? But for me, this is in recent years. There's been a lot of UFO things, but this one stuck out to me because, damn, I mean, look at it, right? What is that? What is it? And there's so much video and so much photography of it. This isn't some little thing that's being misplaced. This isn't some just weird looking cloud or anything like that. It is a thing that is flying in the sky, and it's big. It's really big, right? What do you guys think about this one here? I brought up the Ukraine cigar-shaped UFO.
Is it a cohiba?
No, George. What do you think, Denali?
Um, got really no opinion. It looks like more like a missile sort of way, like a submarine missile just being shot out.
In a way,
Uh,
right? No, I agree with that. Let me just come over here and share with these guys real quick. Just remember with the way I have to do it right now. Just keep in mind what's going on here. Goodness gracious. Sorry about that, guys.
Roger is saying, to me, it looks like a black flying stick.
Just remember, guys, if you want to see what I'm displaying, then go ahead and white box me yourself. I can't do it for you here, otherwise it gets a little bit weird. Anyway, I'll bring that back over here for you guys. There we go. Now we can see it clearly. But yeah, it looks like a stick. I get all that, but I'm just kind of showing here two little images. There was so much information that was going on about this. This was obviously a large flying craft. And that's why it's on official sightings, because this one was very officially seen. Right, this isn't one little picture or one little thing that can be argued. This was seen and photographed by hundreds of people, seen by thousands, photographed by hundreds, videoed by. I've seen at least a dozen videos on the internet about it. And this thing was just hovering over that situation during the Crimea, concern that was happening. But this is, I'm going to show another one later, but this for me is the most interesting one in recent years for me, because it was so clearly something. You know what I mean?
Was it ever broadcasted on larger media station, news
Um,
station?
well, outside of America, yeah, yeah, absolutely. See, that's another problem
Okay.
that we come into. And who am I talking to?
No, this is Jim.
Oh, hey,
How you
Jim.
doing?
How you doing, Jim? Okay.
Good.
Yeah, no, that's another interesting point. A lot of stuff, if it's relating to an area like in Europe or America or something like that, you won't find information so easily about it if you're living in that area. It's almost like there's a media blackout in some ways, right? But here, me living in Japan, now, of course, the Japanese media doesn't show anything that would possibly upset any of the population. So the Japanese media is this stale, happy little, Captain Kangaroo type of situation, or sorry, Sesame Street for the younger folks, situation.
I see.
But because I'm in America, my internet access, excuse me, I'm in Japan, my internet access allows me to see everything, right? And it's interesting what gets blocked out from you guys. And this one in America was covered a little bit, but in Europe, it was like completely blacked out. You couldn't find information about this at all.
How long ago did you say this was? I'm sorry.
This is back in
I came in
Crimea.
a little late.
What was that? 8 years ago, something like that. 7 years ago.
8 years. I've never seen this one.
Yeah, and it
It's
was
interesting.
highly photographed and highly videotaped. Um, and it was really fascinating because I remember also at the time there was a information that came out of this government place. It was leaked, and it was showing bits and pieces of engines and other things that were construction of this. And it was talking about, hey, we made this. This is not an alien thing. This is American made. And then all of a sudden, that website was gone. All the information they tried to scrub, of course, it's on the internet. You can't scrub it. But that was very interesting as well, because it seemed like some government group or some people who work for a government group were trying to say, hey, calm down. It's not aliens. It's just us. And then the government came in and said, "What are you doing? This is supposed to be a top secret project," and they shut it down. Is what it seems like. But this is just for me. It was very interesting. I'm very curious what it is, and especially because it's so damn big, right? I mean, we're not talking about these little Foo Fighter type of glowing balls, which we see a lot of those kind of drone-like, whatever they are, or the other saucers. This thing is gigantic, dude. I mean, it's minimum hundreds of meters, if not more closer to a kilometer in size. I mean, it's really big, and that we don't see big huge ones like that in broad daylight so often, right? It's quite rare. Anyway, that's my first offer
Yeah,
of the
no, that
day.
is interesting.
It is interesting. Now, let me come on over and what about you guys? What do you want to share? You want me to go to your story first, Denali?
Mm, I'll be interested what George got to
Okay.
say.
All right, let's go over to George's then. Now, George, you want me to play the video first, and then you'll talk, or you want to talk and then I'll play the video?
Well, the video is a half hour long, so let me
No,
talk
no,
about the video.
I found a much smaller one. Yeah, hold
Oh,
on a
you did?
second.
Okay, great.
Dinale, could you take over for me, please?
Sure.
Ladies and gentlemen, Dinale is going to be tap dancing with for you by the sounds of the Lawrence Welk show.
Right. But while he's taking care of his dog in the background, George, tell us what you're going to talk about. What is
I'm
what is
I'm
going
gonna
to show us?
I'm gonna talk about the Tic Tac UFO. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we have a Tic Tac UFO. Its sightings have happened as early as 2015. The first sightings were reported in 2004. I'm going to give you a brief overview, and you can research this on YouTube. There's plenty of videos, lots of witnesses, and all this is official government released information. Any questions?
Where was it cited?
Oh, right
released?
off the west coast, between San Diego and Long Beach, Los Angeles. It's called the Catalina Island and the San Clemente Island.
Now, for the uneducated like myself, what exactly is a Tic Tac UFO?
The UFO is in the shape of a Tic Tac. It just happens to be the
Oh,
size
okay.
of an F-15 fighter jet, but
Gotcha.
the shape is a Tic Tac.
Okay, gotcha.
So
Okay.
I'm gonna share my screen so people will see for the geographic challenged people. I will zoom out and show you the United States of America.
All right. Well,
Notice this.
you're gonna have to wait just a moment
Yeah.
because you can't share us.
Oh,
If you click on them, you can see it in our Hangout.
Right. Right.
I see
I'm not worried.
okay.
I'm not worried about us.
Yeah.
so Chester gave us the control of the stream without giving us control of the stream.
There you go. Yes.
There you
He
go.
just wants you.
Hello, I am back. Sorry about
Yeah,
that, guys.
yeah.
And
He's
is George
back.
complaining as usual?
Yeah, I was just about to show the kids a magic trick.
All right, fine. But anyway, do you want me to show this video? I got a 2-minute version of it.
Okay, go ahead.
All right. All right. Now I'm going to keep the audio off on this, of course, and this is someone else's video with Global News. Thank you very much. And they're just giving you some written information anyway, so it's pretty handy. But they're talking about this here. Let me back it up a little bit, and let's read through this, okay? So. This is the thing. He says official USG footage brought to you exclusively by this group that's the Stars Academy in Arts of Science. Okay, Gimbal. All right, so let's see here. Gimbal is the first of 3 U.S. military videos of an unidentified aerial phenomena, UAP. That's interesting that they've changed the name, and George made mention of that as well. It's not a UFO, it's a UAP. They've changed it, right? That has been through the official USG. Thank you very much for all these lettering. Declassification review process and approved for public release. Well, thank you. Okay. All right.
Hillary Clinton mentioned that change in an interview.
She did. That's interesting. This
She did.
content
Yeah.
has chain of custody documentation to ensure preservation of its original condition. Go ahead, Jim.
Oh, no, I'm good. Go ahead.
All right. Taken aboard a Oh, that's a long one. Taken aboard a U.S. Navy FA-18 Super Hornet. Ooh, Super Hornet. The unaltered footage was captured by a Raytheon Advanced Targeting Forward-Looking Infrared ATFLIR. That's not a very good one. Pod, which contains the most advanced sensors and powerful tracking system on the market. Wow, that's interesting how they use the word "on the market." Hmm. I guess that is realistic. All righty. Let's see. What will you hear? What you will hear are actual U.S. fighter pilots who are highly trained observers and weapon system operators trying to make sense of what they're witnessing. So I guess I will turn on the audio. All right.
No, leave the audio off. Leave the audio off. We don't need to see the audio. We'll see the visuals only.
All right, fine. They're kind of giving you the information. Sensor is in infrared mode. It's kind of the way they write this up is nice. It actually helps you understand what pilots look at. Aimed at 45 degrees. Hornet is 20 degrees left turn. They are talking to each other and they're saying, "What the hell is that?" They're kind of they're surprised in their commentary. See, hot display designator is in white mode. Hot items are white and cold items are black. In black mode, hot items are black and cold items are white. Well, makes sense, I guess. Now they start chatting to each other, and of course they're following this thing, and they're shocked at what they're seeing. They can't believe what it is. We'll have to report this. My gosh! And we have actually down below. That's nice. They're all against it. The wind's 120 knots out to the west. Look at that thing, dude. Wow. Now this is a kind of a trend. That when you guys can read what they're saying down below while I talk. But this is a bit of a trend, huh, George? We've been seeing more and more of these official UFO videos coming out from governments. We had one from, we had the Brazilian ones, of course. We had the one from Iran, it was out of Tehran, actually. That was a very famous one. We had the Russian ones recently that have been coming out. There's been several governments around the world that have been releasing these kind of official videos, George. It's
Yes,
very
it is.
interesting.
Yes, it is. And we have also an official video that was right over the White House. So, I believe what's going on is that while our human technology is improving, it's just that right now we're inundated. The humanity is inundated with video capture equipment. There's nowhere on Earth you can go without
Yeah.
a video capturing your every movement. I mean, if you really think about it, if somebody's stupid enough to rob a variety store in today's day and time,
hmm
they'll never get they'll never make it past a whole block before they get photographed by something.
No, it's a fair point. We are absolutely a surveillance society all over the world. It's not just in America or Britain, which is the worst. I mean, they're under total surveillance there. But even here in Japan now, the Japanese ones aren't particularly invasive. But they everywhere you driving on the highway, you can't go very far or on a road without some camera, catching it, right? So that is a very good point, and it is interesting to show how big that video George is talking about. You even have Tucker Carlson is covering that video, right? That's a Fox News Tucker Carlson talking about the same video George is talking about. So it's pretty interesting.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And I want to point out, if you can lock in on my
I am.
screen.
I'm here. I got you.
All right.
Yeah.
So this is the United States, Google Earth, and we're going to zoom in now to the two islands where this actually happened, so you can see in context of what's going on. In 2004 and 2015, this area right here was where they spotted the UFOs.
hmm
The USS Nimitz, with battle cruisers surrounding it, the battle cruisers were in charge of making sure the aircraft carrier was protected at all times. the battle cruisers plus the I think it's the F-15 Hornets plus an AWACS, all triangulated or zeroed in on these Tic Tac UFOs. These UFOs moved from orbit to 50 feet above the water in seconds, not leaving any wakes, not leaving any heat signatures of any kind. They came as close to the airplanes as I think it was like a 25 feet when they zoomed right by them. So all this is totally legit. There's multiple people who have come out and reported this to the media. And as of yesterday, there's a fifth person, a woman, who has come out and confirmed the events. So there's no way of hiding this information anymore. The aliens or some sort of aliens are here. This is not human technology. It's technically speaking, it defies the laws of physics. And oh, by the way, the UFOs, when they were hovering about 50 feet above the water, they were hovering over an area that was as big as an aircraft carrier, but it was submerged. They were able to see something underneath the water, but they weren't able to accurately figure out what it was. So, ladies and gentlemen,
I am here, guys. Just keep talking. There's a major tsunami warning going off on me, so I'm keeping myself muted. Keep going.
Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are, as far as I understand it, about to have maybe the President of the United States say, "Welcome to Earth" on primetime TV. Any questions?
It would have to be Donald Trump to be that president. Welcome to Earth, aliens. Make sure you pay your taxes.
Yeah. Or yeah, if you want to fight us, just make sure you read Space Force and you get to know that we have our own spaceship.
Make sure that the Star Wars defense is operational.
Yeah. You know what? All joking aside, the chances of if it does come to a point in the next decade that we do have an official statement saying "Welcome to Earth," so to speak. One thing's for sure: whatever technology has been developed, the technology that we have, specifically in the United States, right now is 60 years behind what DARPA has been creating. The internet was created 60 years ago in 1950s, in concept and paper and all that stuff. And then it got released 60 years ago. All the technologies that we're experiencing right now, our jets, our phones, our social network, all that stuff, that was all developed 60 years ago. So imagine the technology that is hidden from us, that we don't know anything about. It's 60 years ahead of what we currently know, what is advanced in technology.
At least,
So
yeah.
think about that.
And we've mentioned that before as well. That's true. I mean, like the stealth fighter, which we know has probably been cited many times as UFO. That thing, when it was released to the public back in the 90s, when the stealth fighter was officially put out, that's from the Skunk Works in the 60s, right? So we are many decades. What we know is many decades behind. That's true. And it is interesting that we've been having a lot of people making statements and thinking that there's going to be some kind of official statement for years now. People have been thinking this is the year we're going to get the statement. We've had the Vatican make various interesting statements about the fact that if alien life were to come to Earth, they would welcome them as brothers under God. These kind of comments are very interesting. What do you think about this, Jim?
Well, I kind of you gotta wonder, like, with the universe being as vast as it is, even if life did hit and did come here, how often is it actually going to happen that a UFO has crashed or has visited?
Hmm.
It's not to say that it's not real. Like we don't see ants in certain parts of the world, but they exist. Um, and they're just so tiny to us and insignificant to us, and why would we want to bother with them? So my take is, I think we did have some type of crash. Maybe that was Roswell. Other maybe one or two, and we've just been kind of reverse engineering the technology, and in the expectation that these beings would return or come back, we're trying to catch up with them. Um, I don't know if I can really say that I believe that we're getting visited regularly. Maybe we are. Maybe I'm just totally ignorant to that. But I think a lot of what we may be seeing nowadays is our own governments just trying to reverse engineer the technology, trying to understand the technology.
Hmm.
Certain elements are finite in the universe, so you know, maybe we're just trying to figure it all out. I don't know.
Well, how about this? A lot of people say that. That's the common shtick. That's the mainstream opinion that reverse engineering, reverse engineering. We hear this all the time. We've even had people who
Mhm.
supposedly worked for these governmental groups that have come out and leaked out information from their own personal experiences, yada yada yada. And that's all well and
Right.
good. But how about more? How about we take a think out of the box a little bit? What if the information is simply being
Sure.
given to us? What if it isn't about reverse
Could
engineering,
be.
but it's about preparing something, right? Because if you look at our
Sure.
technological leap in the past, just we can break it down in the past, say, 200 years, the past 100 years, the past 50 years, the past 20 years, right? And we look at those advances, it's been coming on hot and heavy. I mean, at a ridiculous pace, right? More so than other times in history. And we know there's been other points in history where these things could have happened, they could have sparked, but they didn't. Right, but all of a sudden we have it now.
Mhm.
Is it simply reverse engineering, or is there something deeper going on? Right. Tesla also is another good point there, Joe. Tesla was one of the true geniuses. We did a whole show on Tesla, and he did offer a lot of
Yeah.
things. But I'm just kind of curious if it's not more focused than simply random. You know what I mean?
Hmm. Could be. Like I said, if you're not directly involved in it,
Hmm.
we don't know. So um, yeah, I don't discount anything. My thing though is, with the universe being so vast, and then you have to think about the alien life itself having to develop itself, and in what capacity. That's like saying, how just statistically and number wise, how can we be visited on such a high scale?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like, different civilizations would have to take, we've taken how long to develop ourselves? How long is like alien life? And then do they have the same abilities that we do? Do they even look like us? Do they even, you know, react the same way?
Right.
I'm not discounting it. I'm just thinking that maybe we've had one or two of these ships crash, and we're just trying to catch up.
Maybe it could be
But then
that.
again, if you think about you think about, like, even us as soldiers, we wouldn't want to leave a soldier behind. So maybe some civilization did crash, and they want to know what happened, and maybe they are communicating. Maybe they are waiting for us to, like, catch up.
Sure.
I don't
And
know. I
you
don't know.
have,
I
of
find it all
course,
interesting, though.
yeah, and of
I'm
course
sorry.
you
Go
have
ahead.
all that information with Truman, and how a lot of people think Truman met with aliens
Yep.
on the Air Force Base, and
Yep.
there was a bit of a summit that went on. Another thing I would bring into, just to play devil's
Yep.
advocate, is this that we usually look at aliens
Sure.
from a nefarious point of view, right? And but
Mm-hmm.
what if the things that governments are doing, and potentially aliens, if they're involved, they're doing, what if it's actually a benevolence? What if they're actually working in our best interest, and they're just not telling us that for whatever reason? A lot of times we look at things that look at it as this is all insidious and evil, and it's going to hurt us. They're going to do things against us. Well, what if it's quite the opposite? You know what I mean?
I don't doubt that possibility. I think people who are proponents of the opposite to that view say that based on understanding how man reacts to like cultures and different cultures and how we're a warring thing, we expect anything outside of us to be the same way. So I think that's where that
Hmm.
that idea comes from, that these aliens are have a nefarious like agenda or whatever. You could be very well right.
Yeah,
It could be that a civilization just wants to see us advance, maybe because
it
they're a
could
lot
be.
like us.
Maybe, yeah.
You know,
Or maybe there's other reasons.
yeah,
Joe says Truman or True Man. Was he? Interesting, Joe. But
Hmm.
now today I really wanted to keep things much more modern. I didn't want to go back in the historical stuff, which is difficult for me. You guys know, but I'm an anthropologist, and aside from what officially I teach and I'm allowed to teach, I also have my own opinions of things, and it's hard for it not to leak into my conversations. But I will make this simple little caveat. Um, when we talk about when we read the ancient stories of man, the older the story, the more science fictiony it looks. That which is weird. You would think that would
Mhm.
not be true, but it is. If you go from the generic washed down version of the King James version, and you step that back to the Septuagint, back to the Jewish writings, back to the Mesopotamian writings, the Egyptian writings, etc., the same stories are being told. They're just more detailed. They're more information laden, and
Mhm.
they're science fictiony for sure. And here's the interesting thing: when you go back to the oldest versions of these stories and these supposed alien gods that came to Earth, they didn't do it easily. Those stories don't talk about them traveling in incredible spans of space and their amazing technologies. Not at all. They failed a lot. They lost many men in space attempts to get to this planet, trying to get past Jupiter. Jupiter's a real pain in the butt for them. And finally, they found the right path to get past Jupiter and landed. But even then, they could only bring 50 at a time. It really, they were really didn't have the technological capability to just whiz around space. And it's very interesting that those original stories portrayed them that way. These are supposed to be gods, right? But they had a hard time traveling in space and getting here, actually. And many times in those stories, it talks about the difficulties of communicating with their home planet, traveling between the people, tragedies that had happened, disasters, and all that kind of stuff with their space travel ability. So even the oldest stories we have show that aliens aren't necessarily these godlike tech beings that can go anywhere they want. Their technology is as limited as ours, which I've always found very fascinating. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
No comment. Denali
Yeah.
doesn't want to comment. I know.
It is fascinating. So, I mean, you know more about those older texts than I do, so I
I do.
really
Yeah.
don't. I can't really comment one way or the other. I mean, it's just kind of interesting to hear about that.
It is.
Um, but then when you look at it, there's a lot of technology, a lot of thoughts, a lot of high concept that it
Hmm.
kind of would be it's out of place for that kind of culture, that for that level of culture that was their society,
Hmm.
civilization. So
And don't and don't you have to bring into question the people who are, and the motivation of the people who are translating such texts? Um,
Hmm.
and you have to think in their mindset at the time. You know, I think that's probably a factor as well,
Well,
from
I
a
think
at
it
least
is.
from an
As I certainly think
anthropological
it
point of
is.
view.
It is, yeah. And I have an extra advantage on
Yeah,
that, not just knowing the historical text, but I can read them in their original text as well. I translate Mesopotamian language, Akkadian, Assyrian, Sumerian, stuff like that. So I actually read
right.
these texts in the original writing, right, which gives you a certain another level of
Okay.
understanding, right? And The interesting thing about it, probably a lot of people know this one, but a really simple one is, for instance, the translation of the word Shem. right? Now in the King James Bible, and to be fair, the Septuagint as well, but in the King James Bible, they translate that as men of renown or fame, right? But in the original text, when they're talking about Shem and they're using it in context, Shem does not mean renown. We can use the word to mean famous. It can be used this way depending on the context, but the word Shem usually means the what it literally translates out to be is the tall missile that the gods fly into the heavens upon pillars of flame is what the word really means, right? But yet in the King James and in the modern thinking, you see all of these references to Shem being translated as fame or men of renown or known people. And of course, if you replace all of that with the use of just simply rocket ship, is kind of basically what it's describing. It changes what you're reading in the Bible incredibly, right? And there's been many little translations like that in the King James. King James is quite a mess, to be honest with you. It would be much better, and I think they've done this already. I can't attest to being up to speed on what translations of the Bible are out right now, but I'm assuming people have translated the Bible from the Septuagint more directly. Does anyone know anything about that?
No, I can't
There,
say I do.
there must be better references than the King James by now. There must be. Dinale, aren't there better
Um,
translations in English now?
I mean, there's a new international revive edition, but I don't think they've changed that. I think they changed some wording, and there's been a lot of heated discussion about changing the text as well. So
Well, you do have that title in there. The word of God cannot be altered by man. Yeah. I get it. I get it.
yeah,
But the problem is the King James version you are reading is altered. So it's already what you're complaining about has already been done. I mean, come on now. And to be fair,
again,
well, but anyway, I don't want to get into that
And you
conversation.
yeah,
I hope that there are better translations out there. But the point being is, these old stories. It's not that they're talking about science fiction, space travel. That's not what I'm interested in. What I'm interested in
mhm,
is the fact that it was so difficult for them. These supposed alien gods had a hard time traveling through space. It wasn't like they just magically moved from one planet to another. They had struggled, man. They had difficulties. They had the solar winds would poison their bodies. I mean, radiation, right? I mean, they go
right.
the detail of these stories. It was a real challenge for them, and many of them died just trying to get to this planet. That's an interest. That's far more interesting to me than the fact that there are aliens that travel to Earth. The fact that the aliens had a hard
and
time.
knowing that
Go
right,
ahead,
and
Jim.
knowing that they would be advanced, you would think that they would know the difficulty of that travel, and then you have to question why do it?
Well, because
What's
they
the
were
motivation?
desperate. They were desperate.
Okay.
Their planet was this is from this what they said anyway. Their planet was in a very deep elliptical, and it wasn't often was not near the sun. Therefore, they didn't have the heating of the sun. But the planet itself was thermal, a lot of very volcanic, and they had a thick, heavy, atmosphere. Global warming type of thing, and this kept them
Right,
warm,
right.
and this is what they grew up in. This was their home, right? But as time had gone by, the volcanic activity on the planet was reducing, and therefore they were getting colder, and they needed to find solutions. And one of the solutions that they had found was to take monoatomic gold and float it in the atmosphere, which would cause a reflective reaction, therefore keeping the planet warm. This is why they were so desperate to get to the inner planets, because the inner planets were laden with gold, and they had
Let's
already
go.
exhausted their own. This is what the stories say. This is why they came here, and this is why humans are all gold is of the gods. Gold is so important. Gold, 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 gold is because they came here looking for gold because they desperately needed it. And that's why they went through all that trouble to try to get here, and they cost all that money and all those lives to get here was because they were desperate. And that's
Hmm.
another interesting part of the story. Gods are not only dying, but they're also desperate. How many stories you hear about gods being desperate? It's very interesting, dude.
That is interesting.
Nick W says, Chester, where are you getting this? Please be specific. Well, you can go read a lot of the old things from the Irish writings, with the Tuatha De Danann, which were very interesting. But more specifically, what you need to read are the ancient Sumerian or Shumerian, Akkadian, Assyrian, and Babylonian text. Some of the Egyptian stuff also will lay off on it. But there have been many people who have talked about this, and Zachariah Sitchin has made several great books, if you'd like to read, that lays a lot of this out nicely, but there's been
Yeah.
others as well. But once again, keep in mind, this is not opinion, right? This is just what the ancient Mesopotamians believed. It's their stories, it's their cosmology, right? This is not my opinion. This is what their opinion was, right? Um,
Right.
so it's,
And then you have ancient Hindu saying about a great battle in the sky as well
Oh, well, the
with
Hindu
Kiritaja.
stories echo
Yeah.
the Mesopotamian stories completely. Yeah,
Hmm.
absolutely. As do many Asian ones. Yeah. But anyway, the reason I mentioned that is because I wanted us to have a better understanding that even the most ancient stories we have about space travel and aliens shows that they're not this super tech that can do whatever they want, and it's not like magic science. That's not at all what the stories tell us, and therefore maybe we should keep that in mind when we're talking about potential alien visitation in the modern times. They're not necessarily these magical beings that could do anything they want. They might well have troubles as well, and occasionally crashing a damn ship might well apply, right?
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I do have another video I'd like to show you guys. And then, of course, Dinale has this thing too. We're going to get to Delaney as well. But I want to show this short little video. I'm not going to, it's only 26 seconds, and I'm not going to show the audio. But this is a very interesting thing that happened. Oh, many, many years ago. I don't know, 6 years ago, something like that, 5, 6 years ago. And, uh, we there at the time, there were thousands of people who saw this, right? Thousands of people, because it was right in the center of Jerusalem, right over the Temple of the Rock, right over that, most important area in Jerusalem. And there were dozens of videos that were on the internet initially. Now there's less, but you can still find them. But there's much less than there were. But thousands of people saw this taking place, and it was big international news. A lot of people are talking about it. And just this isn't the best video. I actually saw better videos of this, but this is the best one I could find that's still around. But take a look at this, man. Just watch. Just watch. This is in Jerusalem, by the way. It's right over the Temple of the Rock. Comes down. This light just kind of stays there. Boom, takes off. Here's another angle on it. Take a look. Takes off. And then, like I said, there were dozens and dozens of videos. But it's a very interesting thing. This light ball came down over the Temple of the Dome of the Rock, stayed there, and then for a little bit, and just took off up into space. And thousands of people saw this, right? This wasn't just some odd one person video. There were many videos, many people saw it, many people talking about it, and then all of a sudden people stopped talking about it. So what do you guys think of this one? I'll play it again. Any opinion?
Well, it's kind of interesting that a lot of locations, if you tilt, remember what we discussed the other time where we tilt the Earth, they fall where the equator used to be, or they used to be in the equator. So, and a lot of sightings that's been going on falls upon that equator as well.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of interesting that all the sightings happens to hit, those landmarks around the Earth where if you tilt the Earth to the side and you line them all up, that's where a lot of the UFO sightings are appearing.
It is
By
interesting that that
coincidence.
is happening, yeah. And do keep in mind that Giza and Jerusalem and Easter Island and Teotihuacan and all those kind of things, they're on a line that many geologists and scientists believe was the old equator. Because do keep in mind that the Earth is 23 degrees off its axis right now, off the ecliptic. right? And that doesn't make sense. Why are we off the ecliptic like that? Now, the other day I was talking about purple dawn theory, which was that's a lot of fun. I enjoy that theory as well. And
Hmm.
that's saying the reason we're off is the same as Saturn because we're from Saturn, also measuring frequencies and stuff. But the another argument would be the fact that Earth got hit by something, and the whole system got messed up because something came in and caused us to go off our axis, and the equatorial change, all of the all the animals get thrown in the air, frozen instantly, coming down, broken bones, and then flooded into piles, which we find like mammoths and dinosaurs and stuff like that. There are many different theories. Some of them tie into each other, some of them don't. But it is interesting. There's a scientist who came out many years ago, and he had scientific. It was a scientific theory, not a hypothesis, an actual theory he put forward that actually at the center of our galaxy is not a black hole. And keep in mind, there's a lot of people today who are saying there's no such thing as a black hole. But that he said, in truth, it's actually a pulsar, as we see in many other galaxies. And that pulsar let off a wave. And when the wave hit our sun, it caused a flare, and that flare caused, damage to everything nearby, which would include us. Now, that's an interesting little theory, and there's science and looking in the ice and checking the geology and the soil, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That's a very interesting theory, and if there's truth to that one, well, that means that everything in the damn galaxy was hit by that pulsar, which would mean that 12,000 year ago disaster, which everyone at least agrees upon now, would have hit every other civilization in the galaxy. That's kind of interesting. Talk about connectivity.
Hmm.
I mean, it's interesting, right?
Yeah, no, and I mean, and that would make sense, because if we were hit the earliest 12,000 years ago,
Hmm.
remember that pulsar is still going 12,000 years later.
Yeah, sure.
So if we're sending communication out and we're closest to the pulsar, then that means that any civilization is just getting hit by this wave, so
Hmm.
there wouldn't be any communications. Why can't we hear any other beings if there's other UFOs or whatever? Maybe they got hit by this wave.
Yeah, it's a
And
very interesting theory. I don't know if I have no clue if it's an accurate one or not, but it's just interesting. I do know there's another thing that has been discovered recently, and this is less theory than just simply observation. But it's one of those things that how when someone says something or you hear something and you like slap yourself in the head and you're like, God, how did I not notice that before? It's like one of those things that's sitting right in front of your damn face and you never notice it until someone mentions it. Makes you feel like an idiot, right?
right,
And this one really hit me and made me feel like an idiot because sometimes you have to watch yourself because you think you're smart, right? You got to back yourself up every now and then. I actually appreciate when I get things that back me up, right? And this one backed me up. Um, they have actually observed that we are actually not a part of the Milky Way galaxy. We're in a smaller side galaxy that's getting absorbed by the Milky Way galaxy. And you say, well, what evidence they have for that? What's all this nonsense? Well, the evidence has been sitting right in front of you the whole damn time. When you see pictures, or you have you're sitting in like Arizona or somewhere in the middle of nowhere where there's no light, and you look up and you can see the Milky Way with your own eyes. Why can you see the Milky Way? If we were inside the Milky Way, how would we be able to see it? Right in front of us the whole damn time, and no one actually thought to think, hey, wait a minute, and there it is. And this observation has been gaining incredible traction, actually,
more
because
traction.
a
Yeah,
lot of traction, and it makes perfect
I,
sense
I
now.
thought that they, I thought that they, I don't want to say recently, but
Mhm.
I thought that they um, came to the conclusion that we were not in the Milky Way,
Yeah, well, no, we're not.
as
We're
we
not.
originally thought.
They're
Or
actually
part of
starting
that.
to call our
Yeah,
galaxy the
yeah,
mini Sagittarian galaxy. Is what they're calling it, the Sagittarian galaxy. They've
yeah,
changed it.
yeah,
Yeah, this is becoming more and
yeah,
more
yeah,
widespread because of that simple observation. And I think there's a
yeah.
lot of astronomers and other people that are like slapping themselves in the heads, like, how in the hell we did not notice that? Of course, we're not in the Milky Way because we're looking at the Milky Way, right? I mean, it makes perfect sense. But I mean, that's a little thing that has gone under the radar, right? Why doesn't everybody talking about that and know that? That's interesting news, right? They're too busy talking about their other nonsense and some other, we got to save the women or whatever, or the crap they're doing. But this is a very interesting point. Why doesn't everybody know this now? Right? I mean, but anyway, I just thought that was an interesting little thing. And I do see you guys in the chat. You guys are funny. You're making a lot of interesting and comical comments over here. I appreciate that. But let's move on to Denali's piece here for today. Go ahead, Denali.
All right, so my piece is actually talking about the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, the AATIP, or the AATIP, which was a government, United States government program that began at 2007 by Senator of Nevada, um, Harry Reid,
Harry Reid. Okay.
Harry Reid, to study unexplained aerial phenomena, which again changed from unidentified UFOs.
Hmm.
And remember, a lot of our taxes are where we're going. Well, we can account at least $22 million that this program's been using. It started 2007 and ended in 2012. Purpose of that programs was to connect to see to identify alleged USF sightings over the century. This program was headed by
Go ahead,
Luis
Denali.
Luis Lizardo,
Hmm.
and Chester has
Yeah, I'm
or
showing it
had
right
him
now.
had
Yeah,
him.
that's
He
the
was
dude at the top. Yeah, yeah. I'll go back
right.
to it in a minute.
He was the director of that program
Hmm.
and finally quit after the Pentagon started to cover it up. He did a recent History Channel UFO uncover programs to talk about this release of programs.
Yeah, and
And
actually, Bill Clinton and George W. Bush's dudes were involved in that as well. Yep.
right. Part of this was including the Bigelow Aerospace. For those who don't know, Aerospace was tasked to develop shuttles and like space hotels
Hmm.
and other uh, accommodations for space travel. That was their main focus. That worked with this program, and it turned into a new program which is called the TTSA, which is To the Star Academy of Arts and Science,
Right. Which
which was
we just looked at their video just a moment ago. Yeah, that's right.
exactly,
Hmm.
which is interesting because it has a link to to a rather musician artist back in the early 2000s, Blink 182's
Mm.
lead singer Tom DeLonge,
Yep. Yes.
um, who started this in 2015.
Yes.
Uh,
I actually
so
tried to get work on his site,
Oh, really? Interesting.
on
yeah,
his website. Yeah. If you guys want to, there's a Joe Rogan podcast that he also was on, and he was
Yeah.
discussing about um, leaving all that stuff,
Yeah.
leaving
No,
the
I
leaving the
saw that
music
one.
world, and
That was pretty interesting,
right,
yeah, yeah,
actually. Yeah.
that's interesting.
right, and as I'm looking into deeper, they also announced the Atom Research project, which is to come up with material that are light um, for aerospace investigatory committees, private citizens, to use I guess materials to find these to verify these sightings as well, and
Hmm.
to develop our own star faring research, because this company is really for a lot of R&D development and research things, which
Hmm.
is kind of connected back again to the uh, Bigelow Aerospace. So that's where the time allotted allowed me. So it's kind of interested. Um, about this program. We're talking about all this, and it's funny because this program has come under a little bit scrutiny in just recently, and last month and this month, not this month, but last month in April, excuse me, where they're uh, verifying that Pentagons are following UFOs, and talking about the fighter jets and everything. And where this is housed at, ironically enough, is Nevada. And where else is Nevada famous for besides Las Vegas? Area 51.
Of course, right, right. But there are a lot of these kind of former government people that go around doing lectures and talking about stuff. There's one guy who
Mhm.
supposedly worked in what is it starts with a D. It's over in the California area. The
DARPA.
No, not DARPA.
Yeah.
No, some I can't remember the name of it, but he worked for them, and he said that they were actually the government had made a deal and was interacting with aliens, and they were
Mhm.
selling stuff for tech, and he talked about how they were digging down to prepare areas for the base. They were expanding the base, and they kind of broke into a cavern, unfortunately, and it was full of lizard men and all that kind of stuff, which sounds outrageous, right? It's like, what the hell is this guy talking about? But then you go back
Mhm.
and check, you find out, yeah, this dude is a government guy. He's worked for the government for a long time. And a lot of them, you go back and you check on them, they're not lying to you. They are exactly who they say they are. Now, whether for their firsthand opinions are correct or not, you can argue that. But
Mhm.
it is interesting, dude. We see a lot of that kind of stuff going on
Right.
with these
What's interesting.
experts, right?
What's interesting about all this, and especially with the Bigelow Aerospace, is that they signed an agreement back in 2013 with NASA,
Hmm.
to play a role in the creation of a new economy, a space economy. Um, so take it as you will
Sure.
with that.
All right. Well, Jim, you've come on here and joined us today, so I'm assuming
Yes.
you had something specific you wanted to talk about. So you tell me
You
what
would
it is,
assume
and
wrong, sir.
I would assume wrong, would I?
You
All
would
right.
assume- I just find the whole UFO phenomena fascinating. Um, I had nothing specific. I didn't realize that that's what people were doing. Were bringing on things, or I would
Oh,
have
I see.
looked for something. But um, yeah, I really find it fascinating. It's quite interesting that you're doing this show. I like it. I like it.
Yeah,
I
so do
appreciate you
we.
letting me come on.
No,
I
no
appreciate you
problem.
letting me come on.
And of course, the offer is for everybody else listening. If you want to come on the show and have a chat with us and give your opinion, please do, man. Yeah, we like this a lot. We know it has nothing to do with comic books. We get it.
Hey,
But it's Sunday, so let's sit down and talk conspiracy theory and have some fun. And I'm enjoying it immensely because this stuff is very entertaining. It doesn't matter. I mean, this is the thing. This is what I'd say to everybody. People sit and argue and quite ferociously about a lot of stuff, but in the end, does it really matter? I mean, honestly, you're living your life. You got your job, you got your wife, you got your kids, you got your family, whatever it is you're doing. And, it does it really matter? No, it doesn't. It's just entertainment. Does it matter that aliens exist or not? No. Does it change your life? No. Right. So we're just having some fun, and we don't want to take it too seriously. Just enjoy yourself, right?
yeah,
And but UFOs are a fascinating subject, man, and it's an old subject too. I mean,
yeah.
humans been talking about it. You know what I used to do, guys. I don't know. I'm an incredible nerd. I know, but when I was a kid,
Hmm.
I used to. I lived close enough to my school that I would walk. It was like a I don't know 20-minute walk or something like that to my school. So every day I'd just walk to school, right? But when I come home every day along that path, I come from New England. Of course, we love old stuff. But there was this really old building. I mean, I'm talking like early 18th century, some 18th century it was built, right? But they had this old building and they had converted it into a library. And it was one of those little libraries that hardly anybody went to. but it was just a storehouse, right? But every day I would stop in that library, and up on the fourth floor, I think it was the third or fourth floor of the building, top floor, they had an attic room, and in that attic room is where they stored all the newspapers from the very beginning of them making newspapers in the area. And of course, seeing as I'm from New England, it's from the beginning of New England, right? We're going back to the old Nob Hill and Plymouth Plantation and that kind of stuff. That's how old some of these newspapers were, right? And every day I would sit up there. I'd sit there for a little while. I'd do my homework, and I'd read the newspapers. And I wasn't supposed to. No one's supposed to be able to touch it. But the old lady was nice to me because I was the only kid interested. She probably thought, "Oh my God, a kid actually wants to learn something about history." So she let me do so. And I'd do my homework on this nice little old wooden table, and then I would take newspapers out of their holding areas and I'd lay them out and I'd read them. I'm talking about, hundreds of years old newspapers, right? Reading them. And you would be surprised, or maybe you wouldn't be, how often headlines were talking about UFOs. I mean, this is not a new phenomena. Many times while reading those old newspapers, they would talk about something being seen in the sky and them speculating about what it could be. So it's not a modern thing. A lot of people like say, "Oh, this is just coming out of during the wartime." This is no, it's not. This has been going on a very long time. But I guess the more important thing is I've just displayed to the entire world how much of a nerd I am because I did do that. But I loved it. Is that sad that I used to do that, Dinale? You think that's sad?
Well, it makes sense why you became an took the job that you now have.
Yeah,
It makes
anthropology.
it makes so it makes sense now. It makes total sense.
Hmm. Interesting.
Unfortunately, you can't be Indiana Jones.
No, I really wanted to be. He's much prettier than I am. That's the problem. Look at this official Navy image of a UFO encounter in the Arctic. Look at that. That's pretty. I saw a bigger one up here. This one right here, same picture, right? Just closer. Well, that's
Right.
interesting. Yeah, I'm just kind of going through imagery here.
So, does our chat, besides making jokes at our expense,
I think they're
have
just
anything?
joking. Yeah, yeah.
Have anything interesting they have to comment about what we discussed today?
No, I think they're pretty much just in having fun mocking us. I think that's their main joy, and that's fine. So what you're
Yeah.
saying is that we're actually adopted. Okay, thank you. DARPA porn. There you go, Joe. Nick W says, Lizardmen, Chariots of the Gods, Flying Cigars, and Ancient Sumerian Text tonight on TFT. All right. Joe says, but it's the stuff of comic books. It is the stuff of comic books. I almost made that comment when I
It's
said that,
true.
but I decided not to. Good point, Joe.
It's funny. I almost said it too.
Yeah, right, right. Eric says, "Oh, hogwash! It's all weather balloons and swamp gas. Might well be." Eric says, "Well, crazy people have and do work for the U.S. government. True, true." Joe, this is not my beautiful house. This is not my beautiful wife. I don't know what you mean, but okay. Ezekiel saw the wheel way up in the middle of the air. Yes, he did. And he
Hmm.
went up. He went up upon it. If you believe that. Joe says, and now the big wheel turned by faith, and the little wheel turned by the grace of God. I'm not saying aliens, but yeah, interesting. Eric Hawkins, who would have guessed such a nerd would have such awesome stripper bouncer stories, right, dude? Goodness gracious. But I mean, you do what you have to do, right? I mean, because me being a bouncer was all about just surviving, right? Because when I was playing music, sometimes I'd make good money, right? And I'd be good for a few months, and I wouldn't make a lot of money. So I needed money. I had to eat, right? I got to keep a roof over my head. So, and I just, when I was younger, I just kind of lucked into a bouncer job, actually. And it's just one of the things, because when you're traveling around, and you're moving from one state and one city to the next, what job can you pick up? What's an easy job to pick up like that? Because most people, they get a job, they stay there for decades, and I mean that's what they do. But if you're moving around and you need to pick up work, what do, right? You can do construction, right? What else? I mean, what can you do, right? And of course, being a bouncer is something you can do moving around. It's just convenient, really, is the way it happened. It wasn't planned at all. Not at all. Especially because I'm not a particularly violent person either. But it
Yeah, but
is
you got
ironic,
stabbed.
yeah. I've been stabbed several times, dude. I got scars all over me, man.
Yeah, yeah.
I've been shot at.
Well, we got that in common.
Yeah, well, yeah, I'm just kind of going through. Look up now. What is that? That is. We don't need that. Stop that. Whatever you're doing there, don't do that. Just kind of looking through. I just put a simple little search for official UF photos. Anyway, whilst I'm going through these photographs, oh, that's a nice piece of art, though. Look at that. That's a beautiful piece of art. As I'm going through these photos and stuff, anybody have something they want to add to the conversation?
I don't think there's really much to add to the conversations. I mean, a lot of it's really speculations until we really know what's going on. Until
Mhm.
you know our governments are put to the wall where they can't lie and they have to respond.
Mhm.
Or we kind of find out ourselves. I mean, the only thing I could recommend is Chester. Why don't you retranslate the Bible and see what actually comes out of that retranslation?
Which one- Chester
Translation.
retranslate? Dude, do you realize how much work that would be?
In your spare time.
Jesus.
Yeah, just do it. Just do it. Do it.
Um, I really don't know much about the Bible. I mean, I've read the Bible several times, but
Mhm.
I'm more interested in reading the Septuagint or some of the older versions. But I have read the Bible a few times. But the thing about the Bible you need to keep in mind. It's coming out of the Septuagint, which is a Greek translation of the Torah. Right, that's what it
Mhm.
is,
Right.
right? Now the New
Yep.
Testament stuff is being added on. But the New Testament is really talking more about affairs of the time that were going on. It's more historical, and all the Jesus stuff is really Buddhism. It's Buddha. He's Buddha. I mean, when you look at all the stuff that Jesus did. Now, I'm not gonna. We've had conversations about who Jesus was and Yeshua and Isus, and we talked about that before, and it's fun to go watch that show. That's fun. But if you look at the things Jesus did, the walking on water, the fish and bread feeding all the people. I mean, yada yada yada. This is all stuff Buddha did. You just don't know it because Western people know nothing about Buddhism. But if you go read the stories of Buddhism, you'll find that you're like, hey, wait a minute, Buddha's doing Jesus stuff because all the stuff Jesus does, Buddha did. Right? I mean, I'm
Right.
sorry to shock you, but it is what it
Well,
is, right?
it would. I mean, it would make sense. I mean, it's around the Silk Road at
It
that
is.
period of time
It is.
where all that melting pot is.
Mhm.
So a lot of the stories would be having a miracle.
Yeah, they
I mean,
would.
I think there was a there was a comment. I think last week's show where they're going to say now Chester's going to tell us that the Messiah for the Hebrews was going to be a military leader. And you know what's funny about that comment is, yes, that's what the Jewish people were thinking,
Yeah, that's
that
what
the
Messiah
Messiah.
means. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it means the person
So
who's got a military general is what Messiah is. A person, a
yeah.
great general that's going to come and free them from their torment, right? That's what a Messiah
Right.
is. It's not this, this soft, turn the other cheek kind of stuff. That's very Buddhism based thinking, right? But
Right.
we already had that conversation. I don't want to get into that and stuff and the speculation on that. But what I'm trying to say is I don't really pay. I never paid that much attention to the New Testament. I've read it a couple times, but that wasn't as interesting to me as the Torah. But you have to understand that the King James is a translation of the Septuagint, with the Septuagint is a translation of the Torah, and the Torah was written when they were in subjugation to the Babylonians. Right? This is something people don't understand. They think the Torah was written thousands of years ago. No, it wasn't. Right? It was written while they were under that yoke of the Babylonians, right? And therefore, the problem they had, the reason the Babylonians attacked them, or at least the official reason, I guess, is
Mm-hmm.
because they kept worshiping multiple gods. This is another thing. They keep telling you, oh, the Jews were the first ones of monotheism. No, they were not. They weren't even close to being the first ones. That's fake news, guys. Matter of fact, the Babylonians, they had multiple gods, but only one mattered, and it was Marduk. And they kept telling the Jews, stop worshiping all your doing your idol oh my goodness, my brain just left me. Stop worshiping all your gods, guys. There's only one God. And they kept telling him, knock it off, knock it off. And you even had one king or at least ruler of the Jews that tried to do that. He tried to, hey guys, we need to stop this. We need to start focusing on one God so we don't get our butts kicked. And of course, the Knesset and the leadership of the Jews completely, just refused to be part of that. And of course, that's why Babylon came in and kicked their butt, right, and held them in slavery for 30 years, really. And this is where they wrote the Torah, and it was written under a guise of hiding their beliefs, for one, and two, they was under a blanket of guilt because they felt that that God had abandoned them and let them be defeated. And how do we fix it? And this, by the way, is also the same time they started circumcising the men because people don't understand that the circumcision is not about health and cleanliness. It's about apologizing to God for straying from His way. That's why they're cutting the flesh off the tip of their dicks, right? That's where circumcision comes from. That same period, and it's very very interesting. So for me, I much rather read the older stories that they're getting them from because you get more information. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yes, the Kabbalah. Very good point, Joe. Go. Some of the Kabbalah writings are very interesting. I suggest everyone to read it just for the entertainment value. Anyway, anybody else have anything to say? I've been showing this thing of the Milky Way here, which is it just is shocking. I mean, look at it. We're looking right at it. Of course, we're not in it. I mean, it's just fascinating, right?
I mean, they talked about how we're colliding with another universe, and they've been pointing that out for several times. Now, boom, hit them in the face.
Yep. All right. Well, it sounds like
Yeah.
we've run out of things to talk about on this subject.
Yeah.
So,
Yes.
what I want to do now is I would like very much for us to talk about what we want to do next week. Now, I'm really enjoying this series, the TFT. It's a lot of fun, but of course, we want to have stuff that people can talk about and that can go on and on and on about giving information. So, what do you think, Jim? What should we talk about next week, dude?
Have you guys covered the whole Planet X and Nibiru topic?
Not specifically. No, we haven't.
I'd like to share people's thoughts on that.
That would be interesting. And there's a lot of information on that too, right? I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's a weird thing to me, man. We've seen so many double sun video and photographs. We've seen so many pictures of the sky where it looks like a planet is in the sky. There's so many of these things, and it's like I haven't seen it myself, though. That's the problem, Jim. I haven't seen it
No,
myself.
I don't think it's as close as those that type of thing. If it were in a different orbit, a different ellipse to
Mhm.
us, I don't think we'd actually be able to see it with a naked eye. But certainly, NASA has said there are large masses outside of Pluto
They have
that do
been giving
exist.
information recently that seems to be leaking it out, right? That is true.
Right.
That is true.
And
Um,
I just find that interesting, and then you got to wonder, well, if something, a big, large mass like that,
mhm.
even moving closer and through the what is it, the Kuiper Belt, it would displace things.
It would. It would.
And what effects would it have on our planet? You know what I mean?
Well,
Or would it?
Well, that's an
Would it have any?
interesting point you say, because if we look at the statistics from the 80s until now, late 80s until now, we have seen earthquakes, storms, all kind of a natural phenomena, disastrous phenomena have spiked incredibly, particularly in the
Hmm.
past 10 years. But we've seen this
Yeah.
incredible spike. So something is going on. Now, a lot of scientists simply say, oh, it's just because the sun is going into a dormant phase and it's basically throwing little tantrums as it does that, and this is what's causing this spike. Okay, maybe. Yeah, well, we
Right.
you know, it's interesting that if you talk to one group of scientists, they'll say, "Oh, the sun has no effect on the planet whatsoever," which is stupid. And then you have another group who say the sun it directly affects everything on the planet, which of course makes sense, particularly earthquakes. And there's actually some dudes that are working on that kind of sun weather science that are showing. We're talking about 95% plus accuracy on predicting
Right.
earthquakes, hurricanes, things like that by studying the sun. So I don't know, but
Not to
uh,
mention most systems are a dual star system. They have
that's
like
right.
a dwarf star.
That's right.
Where is ours? Why are
That's
we
right.
different?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
Maybe it's that simple. Maybe
it's
right. Maybe
interesting.
it's simply that. It's just that. Right. And of course, I've heard
Right.
people make the argument, Jim, that we're actually in a tertiary system. Right.
Hmm. Hmm. I
So
haven't heard that one, but
you know,
interesting.
but that would all be under the wormwood conversation, right? The
Yeah.
Planet X, right? You know, they're actually calling it Planet Nine now. I mean, how
Yes.
annoying these guys are. I mean, poor Pluto, dude.
It gets in 1 minute it's a planet, next minute it's not.
Right? It's so sad. Leave it alone. I mean, it's sitting out there all by itself, and it's got two little moons going around it. It's good enough. It's a planet. You know, show some respect. Uh,
It's the it's the bastard planet of our solar
It
system.
is. It is the black sheep for sure. But okay, so that's a fair suggestion. So we could talk about Planet X. That would be fun. I think I could certainly speak on that comment on that topic. We have Nick W says AI, artificial intelligence. Whew,
Ooh,
that would be a
yes, yeah.
yeah.
Quantum computing. Oh,
Quantum
let's
computing.
talk
Yeah,
that.
yeah. Joe says
Oh.
smog. Now you talk about smog as far as pollution in a city, or are we talking about the dragon from Tolkien? You know.
The dragon.
The dragon, yeah. Uh, this is funny. Joe says, earthquakes, tidal waves. It's the hand of Ming. It could be. If these are taken as natural, I judge that the system ignorant and harmless. I spare it. But if the hand of Ming is recognized in these events, I judge the system dangerous to us. And it's funny because all those old Flash Gordon and John Carter and all that kind of stuff, all of those guys were writing on the new information that was coming out. And a lot of their stories are based on those super sci-fi stories of Sumeria. And it's very interesting because I've heard people say that actually they think the sci-fi genre came up out of the fact that the old Sumerian stories are so science fictiony. Now that's interesting, right? I don't know if that's true, but I've
Mm.
heard that argument. But all right, so we got AI, we got Planet X. What do you think, George? What should we talk about?
I think we should tackle flat Earth and get John Malin as our guest to champion his belief.
Yeah, but does he actually know anything about flat Earth, or is he just having a laugh, taking a piss?
Well, we'll find out, won't we?
I guess we could ask him. Yeah.
We'll expose them.
All right. So there you go. So, Denali, you want to add something to the list?
Nah, I'm good.
All right. So there we go, guys. AI, which I think would be interesting, but I don't know how deep we could go into it. But there is certainly quantum computing would certainly be a direction to go. All right. So we got AI, we got Planet X, and we have flat Earth. You guys
Okay, well,
decide.
hold a sec. Let's take a moment and pause for a moment.
Mhm.
I got a thought about the AI.
Yeah. No,
And
George. Let's just let the chat make a decision, dude. Just let them choose.
okay, no, but I just want to add to the AI thought as you guys making a choice. They had AI play chess, and then they had AI try to play the game Go, and it didn't turn out so good. So what they ended up doing was they allowed the computer to learn outside the human experience, and it figured out how to play the game Go and come up with thousands upon thousands of moves that we would never even have dreamt of. Here's the crazy thing about AI. If we're going to talk about AI, let's talk about AI when they try to let it go to try to self-learn and self-teach itself, and
Hmm.
it goes really crazy, advanced crazy.
Yeah, no,
just
we
throwing it
know
out
that.
there. If we're
The
going to talk
quantum
about AI.
computing actually gets into that conversation, George. The question, definitely not Eagle 43 says, flat Earth is fake. Well, dude, we're that's what we're doing. We're talking about conspiracy theories. We're not saying whether it's real or not. We're just kind of talking about it. Let's see. Joe says, I vote synchronicity. We also had he said that twice. Evan Von Skyver says, I pick AI thoughts. Oh, goodness gracious. Curious says, John Malin has moved on to Donut Earth. I see. Okay. The question, definitely not Eagle 43, says, I vote we learn about chess, Go, and Shogi. No. No, I'm no. Definitely. That's boring as hell. Now, Joe, what do you mean synchronicity? That could mean all kind of things. What is it you're trying to say with that? I'm just waiting for his chat. Oh, goodness. All right, Denali, could you take over for a moment, dude? I'll be back in a moment.
Okay. Let me see. Or smog. Planet was free. Pluto was free planet. Let me see. So they're not. Oh, Pyramid Earth. The question, definitely not Eagle 43. The thoughts of thoughts. Evan Von Skyver. Teach me Go. As a topic, Jorian theory. The question, definitely not Eagle 43. Teach us Go. Okay, you can go. I have a board and no idea to play. Eric Hawkins. Chester has to fend off the ninjas again. Yes. And a tsunami. And a tidal wave. And a nuclear meltdown. And Godzilla. Joe Maroon. Coincident or casual connections? Evan Von Scriver. I have a board, no idea how to play. You put the little round things on the board and you try to trap the other black round thingies on the board. And then they try to do the same to you until there's no movements left and it's essentially a checkmate. So, any comments, you guys? George, Jim?
No,
No,
on
not at all.
Go, on the game Go.
Well, no, on synchronicities.
Synchronicity.
Yeah.
It needs to be a little bit more specific. Just like
He's
events.
he's talking about the Carl Jorgen's theories, where everybody.
I can't speak intelligently.
Excuse me.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
They're talking about how there's certain Earth events where everybody has this same kind of emotion or kind of feeling connection, subconscious of the shadow being world that occurred. So, for example, a lot of people mention when 9/11 occurred, the night before there was a large spike of mental activities that coincided just before 9/11 occurred, the night before.
Okay.
And the same thing has occurred when the 2016 election happened, that there was a kind of this mental connection where there was a change or a shift in the world and the whole population unconsciously knew it or understood it. Maybe that's why the left freaking out.
I think that
they're not part of us anymore.
It could be, I think isn't that part of quantum physics? What's it called? Part of the theory where simultaneous things happen to particles that are separated. If you affect one particle in one place, it gets affected in another. Another particle can be affected or changed.
Oh, we're talking about string theory.
I'm speaking outside my depth, obviously.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yes.
I can definitely talk about that.
And we were talking about synchronistic events. And I was saying, how people were having, I guess, experiences before 9/11, before the election, which it's kind of just paranoia, um, but I was trying to bring it. Perhaps it's just a form of quantum physics in effect that we're all experiencing certain events, tragic events or big events, and we're all sensing that. I don't know. It's
Well, you're
interesting.
talking about quantum entanglement, right?
Yes, that's what he's talking about.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's it.
Yeah, so I do apologize, guys.
Yes,
I've had a lot of disturbances this morning, tsunami alarms and deliveries and all kind of stuff. So, oh well.
Everything
But
okay?
yeah, everything's fine. I'm pretty high up, so everyone else will die. It'll be all right. But so have we made a decision yet? What we're talking about next week?
Synchronicity, because it has a lot of Jung's theory
Carl
in
Jung,
physics.
the
Yeah.
you talk about the psychologist?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. He was a weirdo, you know.
Yes, which is perfect for this show.
I agree.
Aren't they
That
all?
is true. Yeah. No worries, Chester. Yeah, no worries. I'm fine. All right, that's an interesting choice there, guys. All right, we will. That means I have to go study. Thank you very much. So, all right, synchronicity. More than likely, I probably understand what it is. I just don't know what it is offhand. But I will look into it and I will study it. So next week we are going to do synchronicity. Interesting. So therefore, everybody's here's your job is to go study synchronicity and know it like the back of your hand. So you come in here and be an expert. You got that, George?
I will.
He's laughing like,
I will defer the synchronicity to your synchronicitors.
Okay, all right. Yeah, okay, Jim, you got to
oh
be
boy,
ready,
oh
Jim.
boy.
I will attempt to be ready for you.
Okay, Jim's going to get
I
ready.
will definitely look into it.
Oh, awesome, and me too. Which is fun because I don't know much about that, so it's something new for me to study, which is always cool, dude. I love learning new things, and that's another cool thing about this show. Actually, is you get to learn, hear things you haven't heard before, and that's interesting, right? And hopefully you guys are enjoying it as well. We have a good solid group of people that come in every Sunday and join us, so we love it, guys. We're happy that you're enjoying it, and once again, I will give that call out saying that, hey, if you want to be on the show, contact me, man. I'd love to have you up in here and have a chat. It's fun. I mean, is it that scary, Jim? Was this a terrifying
No,
experience?
not at all.
Not
Not
at
at
all,
all.
right? We're very nice, you know. We're very,
Fun.
very polite, very nice people. Well, I am anyway. I can't account for George, but for me, I'm a nice guy. Isn't that right, Dinale?
Right.
And,
We don't
Wait,
we don't
Dinelli's
bite.
saying it without duress. Isn't that
Fine.
right, Dinelli?
All right.
Not wearing the flag under upside down.
No, let's not do that. We could put on our tinfoil hats, but we're not going to be having any upside down flags here for at all. No, thank you very much. But that's a whole nother conversation. There's some people who get their ass kicked when it comes to that shit. But anyway, sorry. Ding, 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 ding. But
Yeah.
go listen.
Isn't flying the flag upside down a form of distress? A signal for distress?
You see, if it was a military platoon under pinned down under heavy attack, and they put it up as a form of communication
Yeah.
to get help, awesome. But that's not
Yes.
why the
Yeah.
hippies use it. The hippies use it to say, "I don't like
No.
America," and it's like, well, get the hell out then,
No.
right? And
Yeah. Yeah.
that's what
Yeah.
I have to say about it. I mean, if they
Yeah.
keep going on about
No, I was
how
just
much they
referring to the history.
Oh no, yeah, okay. Well then you're right. The police did more than every breath you take on that album, Synchronicity and Synchronicity 2. Yes, you're right, Joe. Eric Hawkins says Chester is a nice guy until he pops your eye out and rips off your ear. Lol. Hey, dude, those were accidents. I did not intend in those things at all. It just happened, and it was their fault for sure. I didn't start shit, right? Anyway, all right, guys.
Don't mess with the bear.
No,
That's all.
don't poke the bear. That's for sure. But this was a
Don't
fun
poke the bear.
conversation. Yeah, this was a fun conversation today, talking a little bit about the official sightings, and there's a lot of them, and I think it's really interesting because even people like say George Washington, I think a lot of people don't know that George Washington had a very detailed account of meeting aliens, and I think that's very interesting, and we talked about a lot of other cool stuff. So thank you very much for joining us. We appreciate it. Of course, we'll be back here next week with Synchronicity. We'll see how that works out. And of course, we have the rest of the stuff we do this week, which Dinale, of course, is going to lay out for us. But I want to thank you very much to George for joining us. We appreciate it. Want to thank you very much, Jim, for being here. And definitely study your
Hey, thanks for
Synchronicity.
having me.
Oh no, absolutely, dude. You're on next week for Synchronicity. I want to make sure that study is
All
done
right.
properly. All right, there you go. And Dinale, take us out, man.
All right. Well, we have Comics News Today tomorrow, starting at 9 p.m. Eastern. We're doing this for some of our groups that enjoyed the later shows, followed by Tuesday at 8 p.m., where we are doing Vampire the Masquerade Boston by Night. It's going to be a whole lot of fun. I'm excited to see if our characters won't die after just that episode. Wednesday, it's going to be Bunny Vision movie night. We haven't decided what movie, but we'll let you know tomorrow what to watch. And then Drawn and Quarter and Comics News Today's will be on Thursday. Comics News Today at 8 p.m. regular time, and then followed by at 10 p.m. Eastern, the Drawn and Quarter Fan Edition.
Ooh, yeah.
Friday, we're out. And then next Saturday, it's going to be our Fan Speak, which will have Doug Garrett, creator of Lone Wolf, on.
Yeah.
He's going to be talking about Legends of the Lone Wolf. It seems like his project is becoming more successful and more out there that people are knowing. So check us out for all those shows. But as always, your perception shapes your reality, so always make it a good one. Oh, and before Chester signs us off, signs for my newsletter in the description below, dinalescomics at Gmail for The Immortal Mask. It's an upcoming project that I'm working on that will be crowdfunding. So get involved, get connected. Awesome.
Namaste.
Namaste.
Later, guys.
Right.
Aloha.